Good afternoon, my dear students. Welcome to the online video class session of Political Science, 4th semester. So, my dear students, in our previous class, we discussed about the brief review of Indian Constitution. So, in the part of that, we discussed about the various reasons for Indian national movement, and also we discussed about the British acts. It shows that the evolution of Indian constitution. The British was brought various acts for the welfare of the British India. So British India is the place which is under the control of British, under the control of the governor generals in India. But actually the British rule was first captured or handed over by the British East India Company, but some kind of controversial policies was brought by the British East India Company. Then the British government has handed over the power from the British East India Company and started ruling in the name of the governors, governor generals, viceroys. So like that, this is the brief history of the India before India's independence. It is under the rule of British. But the way there are various agitations was taken place under the various leadership like moderates, extremists, and as well as the Gandhi. So n number of freedom fighters were sacrificed their life for the sake of independence. But finally we got independence. But they were thrown a challenge to write Indian Constitution. So the government of the British was challenged to the Indians to frame the Indian Constitution. So then the Constituent Assembly was gathered and appointed various committees. So among the various committees, the drafting committee, one of the most important committee, which is appointed with the 7 members, chairman as the Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. So it was written the constitution approximately 2 years, 11 months and 18 days. Finally, it was submitted to the Constituent Assembly on the 1949 November 26. But it was came to effect from 1950s January 26 onwards. The constitution as one of the lengthiest constitution and written constitution in the entire world, but it was taken the various issues from the various constitutions. So today let us discuss about the sources of Indian constitutions. From which constitution, what kind of provisions were taken and incorporated in Indian Constitution. So this is one of the most important topic. Generally, if you write any competitive exams, at least two to three questions used to ask from this concept. So various constitutions were referred by the drafting committee, and various good issues were taken from the various other constitutions. But already in our last class we discussed about that the British India Acts were the foundations or the roots of the Indian Constitution, like 1909 Act, 1919 Act and 1935 Act. So here the 1935 Act is played a predominant role in the Indian Constitution. From Indian Constitution, many of the issues were covered or taken from the Government of India Act 1935. So whatever the issues were looking in the were facing in the Indian Constitution, so that some of the issues are taken from the Government of India Act 1935. For example, a federal scheme and office of the governor and governor, public services, so emergence provisions in administrative details. So these are the issues are taken from the Government of India 35 Act. So we should keep in mind that the federal scheme, office of the governors, public service commission, emergency provisions about administrative details. So these are the issues which are taken from the Government of India Act 1935. And the British Constitution, in fact, also much more on the Indian Constitution. From British Constitution, we have taken number of issues. For example, the parliamentary form of government, the rule of law, the legislative procedure, the single citizenship, cabinet system, and writ jurisdictions. So these are the issues are taken from the British Constitution. And we have also taken various issues from the American Constitution. So American Constitutions, in fact, also there on Indian Constitution. For example, the most important concept, the fundamental rights, is taken from the American Constitution. The independent judiciary, actually the judiciary is independent, it is not under the control of state, or it is not control under the central. It is autonomous body, or it is independent body. So the independent judiciary system is also taken from the American Constitution. And we have taken the most important concept, judicial review. So the judicial review, one of the important concept in the matter of judiciary. So that is also taken from the American Constitution. Office of Vice President, procedure of impeachment of President, procedure of removal of judges of High Court and Supreme Court. So these are the concepts also taken from the American Constitution. So these are the most important constitutions, like the office of Vice President, procedure of impeachment of President. If we want to remove the President, there was a procedure. There is a procedure. So that procedure is called as impeachment. So the impeachment procedure also taken from the American Constitution. So not only the impeachment of President, the procedure of removal of judges of High Court and Supreme Court. If the High Court judges or Supreme Court judges are proven any kind of misuse, so based on that, the Parliament is removal of that particular judges, either they are belongs to High Court judges or the Supreme Court judges. So this concept is taken from the American Constitution. And the Russian Constitution, in fact, also there on Indian Constitution, like fundamental duties. So the concept here, we should keep in mind that the concept of fundamental rights taken from the American Constitution, and whereas the concept of fundamental duties is taken from the Russian Constitution. So ideal of justice, social, economic and political in the preamble. So these are the things, fundamental duties, the ideals of justice, socio-economic and political issues of preamble. So these are the issues are taken from the Russian constitution. And the constitution of Ireland, in fact, also there on Indian constitution, that the concept of directive principles of state policy, we can usually use to say DPEP. So directive principles of state policy, DPSP. So DPSP also taken from the Ireland constitution, the directive principles of state policy. And besides that, the nomination of members of Rajya Sabha, method of election of president. So the election of president is somewhat different to the election of a parliament or election of assembly. So the electoral college will elect the president of India. So there is a separate procedure. So that procedure is taken from the constitution of Ireland. And the Canadian constitution, in fact, also there on Indian constitution. The federation of with strong center, vesting of residuary powers in the center, the practice of appointment of governors of state by the center. So advisory jurisdiction of Supreme Court. So these are the issues are taken from the Canadian constitution. The federation with strong center, and the vesting of residuary powers in the center, the practice of appointment of governors of a state by the center, advisory jurisdiction of Supreme Court. So these are the issues taken from the Canadian constitution. For example, in UPS government, our Telugu state's governor is Narasimhan. But when the second time elected second time the formed the government by NDA at center, then some of the state governors were appointed by the central government. For example, if you take Telangana governor is Tamilisai, appointed by the central government, who is ruling in the center, BJP. So it seems that the governors of state appointed by the central. So this concept is taken from the Canadian constitution. And we have also the impact of Australian constitution. The concurrent list, freedom of trade, commerce and interstate commerce among the states, joint sitting of both houses of parliament. So these are the issues are taken from the Australian constitution. So here we have three lists: state list, central list and concurrent list. So the concurrent list is taken from the Australian constitution. The freedom of trade, commerce and interstate commerce among the states. So this is also taken from the Australian constitution. And joint sitting of both house of parliament, the upper house and lower house. So this is also taken from the Australian constitution. And we have also in fact of French constitution, the republic, the ideals of liberty, equality and fraternity in the preamble. The French constitution is given this concept. Actually the French constitution or the French revolutions concepts are liberty, equality and fraternity. So that concepts is taken from the French constitution and incorporated in the Indian constitution in the part of preamble. The South African constitution in fact also there on Indian constitution, like procedure of amendment to the constitution. So since from the beginning the constitution has been amended by the various governments. So recently also the government amended so many issues. So the concept of amendment of constitution is taken from the South African constitution. And finally Japan's constitution in fact also there on Indian constitution. The term of procedure established by the law in the article 21 is taken from the Japanese constitution. So these are the sources of Indian constitution. So the sources of Indian constitution also are criticized by some of the jurists. In Telugu it is called as Atkula Bonta, means it has taken various issues from one constitution and another issues from another constitution. So like that it is the pieces of the giant pieces of a cloth. But even though the Indian constitution is one of the best constitution in the world in the form of its structure, its form of in the function. So my dear students, so please write down the notes and listen carefully. This is the sources of Indian constitution. So here I am going to wind up the session. So bye, take care.